All right, hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Samurai Brothers. John and Matthew are back again. This is episode 49 of our podcast. And Matthew, so we've had some interesting developments in the last couple of days, kind of in real time, and then with some stories going on, and then a new season for a show that we have obviously been in tune with. But so that will be the One Piece live action season 2 trailer. We're going to talk about it since you and I have both watched it, coming to Netflix. And then, so today, actually, we're going to start off with something that, so typically we try to keep this podcast politically free of,
Neutral.
yeah, politically neutral talk, but we did want to kind of discuss this and give our opinions about the Gina Carano Disney lawsuit, and it appears that it has been settled within the last couple of days. So, Matthew, let's get into that. Obviously, so just to give viewers some context, Gina Carano did say some things that offended, people, and with that being said, Disney ended up firing her. Gina Carano, former MMA fighter, Matthew. I remember Matthew talking about her a lot. And I don't think Gina Carano was the one whose arm was broken by Ronda Rousey, right? That was
No, that was Misha Tate. Gina Carano and Ronda Rousey never fought.
Okay.
It was the an interesting thing. Ronda Rousey has actually gone on record saying that Gina Carano actually is the one who inspired her to go into MMA. She was in judo at the time, but she's the fighter that inspired her to go into MMA, and she was hoping to one day possibly fight her. Obviously that didn't happen because after Gina Carano's only loss, unlike Ronda, whose stock went down, Gina's went up. Probably because I don't want to say it's because she's got a better personality. It kind of does.
Yeah. Whole personality thing.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but it kind of does.
Yeah.
Gina's a nice girl overall. Ronda Rousey's rough on the edges.
She kind of came off as not a pleasant person.
Yeah, she's offended at times both the MMA community and the pro wrestling community.
Yeah, WWE.
Now granted both women's MMA and women's pro wrestling do owe a lot to her. There's no question about that, but it's almost as if she kind of had a shelf life with people tolerating how her personality is, and she kind of at some point she had an expiration date. One thing I will say, I know we're supposed to be talking about Gina Carano, but one thing I will say about Ronda Rousey, as someone who's on the neurodivergent spectrum, I think she's somewhere on that spectrum. I don't know if it's autistic or ADHD or whatever falls on that spectrum. She gives me those kind of vibes.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, I think back to Gina Carano. So yeah, and I think Gina never fought in the UFC. Is that correct?
She never fought in the UFC.
Okay. Well, anyway,
there was a point where the WEC was when the UFC bought the WEC, well, Zuffa, and was using it as a test bed for certain type stuff like the lighter divisions, so 145, 135. They were using that as a test bed to see if it was viable. There was a point where Dana White was slowly softening, because initially when women's MMA was starting to grow big, he thought of it just as a sideshow or a freak show or however you want to put it. And but he did briefly say that he would consider creating a division around Gina Carano. I think this was shortly after the Strike Force buyout. He was considering that. But like I said, Gina Carano went to movies and that didn't happen. So
yes, and actually transitioning the conversation into the movies. Obviously everyone knows her. The specific movies I remember watching her in was like the one movie. I can't even remember which number Fast and Furious it was.
I didn't even watch that movie.
Yeah. And then there was also Deadpool, where she played one of the villains.
Yep.
And then I don't recall. I'm almost certain.
Did you ever watch Haywire?
No, I did not.
She was the star. She was portraying an assassin she was portraying a mercenary that was being used as a scapegoat.
Okay.
And she had to basically kind of clear her name.
Fight her way out. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It had a lot of big names. It had Channing Tatum, Ewan McGregor, Bill Paxton, may he rest in peace, and Antonio Banderas. Those are all big names.
It's kind of a shame Stallone couldn't get her into the Expendables franchise.
There was one point I remember him saying that, like, shortly around or after Expendables 3, that he wanted to create a all women's cast called the Expendables. And I think he might have been one of the women that he name dropped in there, but Sigourney Weaver, Miss Ellen Ripley herself was another one of the names that was dropped in there. But even though they created another Expendables, which I haven't seen yet, the reality is that the franchise was kind of
I wasn't
out of steam.
I wasn't really impressed with Expendables 3, to be quite honest. 1 and 2 did pretty good.
It's one of those things where it started at a peak and it kind of started going downhill.
Yeah.
Which it had Randy Couture in it, and I'm kind of feel bad for. Oh, speaking of which, so there's a very interesting thing that happened. I don't know if you've ever heard about this, but a few weeks ago, it was reported that Randy Couture in Kansas City was in a car accident and he was being airlifted to a burn center.
I didn't hear that. But...
Remember, Randy Couture's our dad's age. He's in his 60s. Well, 2 weeks ago, I watched the PFL for which he was doing commentating, and he was perfectly fine.
Got it. Well, to go back to Gina Carano.
He did admit that he shouldn't have been driving 200 miles an hour or on a road. Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah. Sorry. Back to Gina Carano.
Well, with that being said, so the recent claim to fame that she's had was with The Mandalorian, which was a
Cara Dune.
Yeah, it was a hit TV series that was produced by Lucasfilm under the Disney ownership at the time. But then a lot of things happened. Obviously, COVID happened, other things happening going on, and Gina started saying stuff on then Twitter, and it was upsetting a lot of people that were politically, ideologically different thinkers than her.
And those people just so happen to be the higher ups of Disney.
Well, yeah, there was people who agreed with the higher ups in Disney. And so with that being said, after a number of tweets, Disney cut ties with, and of course, Disney tried to say it wasn't politically motivated and all that stuff when, you had people like Pedro Pascal on the other side.
Who was allowed to post very similar social media posts on the other side of the spectrum, but got no disciplinary action from Disney.
Mm-hmm. So with that being said, obviously after a number of years, we get
lawsuit.
We got a lawsuit, and I think it was filed last year, if I recollect. But I think, and obviously, we've seen a lot of shifting happen. And this is just saying, hey, we have a new administration in because President Trump is now in office.
I don't
And
think
then,
it was just that. It's just that there was a recent ideological shift in general. But
yeah, of things.
Yeah.
And also, so the details come down to the fact that Disney and Gina Carano decided to settle out of court. The details of the settlement are obviously not public record. They seem to be sealed away. Gina tweeted that, on Now X, that she's very happy with the terms of the settlement. And, we see that a lot of people have been calling. I've been seeing, so obviously you've got the liberal media saying, hey, Disney had to settle. And then on the other side, you've got a lot of YouTubers or political commentators saying that this was a big win for Gina Carano. The funny thing here is that I've seen a lot of normal people like you and me, a lot of just regular users commenting, especially on a lot of those videos that I didn't really watch a lot of the videos because when I saw the headlines about the settlement, my thought was, okay, the fact of the matter is that Disney obviously offered Gina a very good settlement, and she decided to take it. And I think the other thing, before I let Matthew, what your opinions about it is, the fact was that I think to get to this point, for Gina, I think she would not have been able to get this far if it wasn't for Elon Musk backing her as well. Because that meant that she had the financial means to really fight this with Disney. I think I've seen a lot of common people, normal users, upset with the fact that Disney didn't want this to go to court, because then Disney's dirty laundry would be aired. So for me, I'm kind of, I can't really say whether it's great or bad. I mean, I think in the end, it's Gina's case. For her, it's a win. You want to put it that way, but it kind of leaves some questionable practices about Disney in the dark, going forward. So that's my opinion about it. So Matthew, your take on this?
Well, the fact of the matter is, Disney, I mean, both Musk and Disney have the financial abilities to go back and forth over this. Like if Musk was actually, with Musk bankrolling this, they had the ability to be able to go back and forth about this for upwards of a decade. But in reality, Disney's kind of in, just in general, because of a bunch of faux pas they've had over I think over the past decade. Yeah, basically they've had a PR nightmare. People aren't viewing them as the fairy tale. A lot of people, enough to obviously keep them in business. But basically, a lot of people don't view them as the fairy tale American, experience anymore. And they're at a point where they're kind of realizing we can't keep doing this. We can't keep losing money in very specific areas. So the parks, for example, the parks for the longest time has been what's been keeping Disney afloat. The reality is, even I think at initially Disney Plus was keeping.
Well, it was a nice addition.
I think it actually was making money. Initially, it was making money, but at this point, it's kind of a lost leader because all the stuff that you have on there, it costs money to keep all that content on there, which is why they filter stuff off. Even some of the Marvel stuff they filtered off, like some of the less well received stuff, like the the Runaways. I think Inhumans may or may not be on there anymore.
Well,
A bunch so there's a lot of stuff that is losing money, and then they had a bunch of movie projects that I mean, this isn't new because, like, for example, did we go and watch The Lone Ranger together?
yes, I think we've discussed that here on the podcast before.
Yeah, that was a time when right before Disney started making all those big purchases like Lucasfilm and Fox and Pixar. I think they might have already bought Pixar at the time, but they were making a whole bunch. They bought a whole bunch of these purchases because they realized for some reason we can't make money. We are losing money on it's like the Lone Ranger, I think, could have actually been successful if they did it the wrong way. But they basically tried to make it, what's it called? They tried to make it Pirates of the Caribbean 2.0. And what works in a swashbuckling context doesn't work in a Western.
Right, because for one thing, they made the story wrong. They made the story because they had Johnny Depp in it, but they had him playing Tonto. And so it was more of a kind of a Tonto-focused movie. And the Lone Ranger, the character of the Lone Ranger himself was horribly written. Because you and I, obviously, as we grew up, we listened to all the radio episodes and stuff like that. And, just when you compare... I mean, you have to have listened to the Lone Ranger series, and then you can actually make a good comparison. Like, you and I can legitimately make comparisons about how the Lone Ranger, the movie, was compared to what we know about the radio series. And this was not Tonto, and this was not the Lone Ranger. It was essentially... I remember you and I both walked out of there, and we were like, "This was a
what did we just watch?"
Yeah, that's exactly what we both said. We said, "What did we just watch?"
Yeah,
it was a crap movie, and it essentially, and I'm looking at it. I'm looking at the Wikipedia page right now. It essentially only grossed $260 million off of a 250 million on production budget alone, and they also
that's just the production budget. That doesn't even because
marketing.
The advertising is separate from the production budget.
Yeah, marketing, it says, costs an additional 150. So that is a true bomb, true box office bomb. Anyway,
but there was a point where Disney, like in the late 2000s, early 2010s, they were losing money. Then they started doing stuff like buying Marvel, and they started having successes, and they were making money in the 2010s. Then they thought they could use that to start doing more at-risk projects, most of which bombed and have been bombing as of late. So so again, while there are parts of, while the company overall is losing money, it's like you saw video of these shareholder meetings where they're having to try to justify things in which they're like looking bad, and these shareholders are like, "What are you doing here? It's like we're entrusting you with the ownership, with running this business that we're invested in, and your PR is going down the drain. You're trying to do these projects that are like not doing well, and it's so they just and so now they're at a point where Disney legitimately it's like people on both sides of the spectrum are like, you're not doing good here. It's so they're at a point where they have to try to rehabilitate their image because they're not doing well.
Here's the thing. So, this whole thing with firing Gina Carano, she's one of the things that's attracting people to watch The Mandalorian.
She was one of the stars, and they were also going to do her own spin-off series, and they let her go. And an ironic thing, the Streisand effect, Cara Dune dolls started skyrocketing in price after that happened. They were creating this demand all of a sudden, and they're like, okay, we can't capitalize on this anymore. Because because they're just like, okay, well, if we make more dolls to fulfill this demand, we still have to pay her the royalties. And they didn't want to do that. So
yeah, because I know that up until that point, and again, this is where I'm coming from a politically neutral aspect about Star Wars under Disney. The fact of the matter is that it has aside from like Rogue One and then obviously with Mandalorian, those have been two good projects that I've seen under Disney. But the fact of the matter is that a lot of the other stuff, like another kind of instance of Disney messing up a movie. Like, remember when we went to go watch Solo? And that was another one where we were like, this was not,
this is not Han Solo. This is some kind of fan fiction that Disney put together.
Yeah. So, what is the point of, firing somebody who's a star of your show that's doing really well? But again, it's just sometimes it's like,
this is another thing that came up. Both Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau, and George Lucas. Because George Lucas was being kept as a because he's
consultant.
Well, he's being kept as a consultant, and he's the what's it called? The purchase of Lucasfilm included a stock swap. He is the biggest single owner of stock in the Disney company because of that buyout, and he wasn't happy about that. Because he personally met Gina Carano, he liked her. Dave Filoni, he liked working with her. Jon Favreau liked working with her, and they're all just like, "What are you guys doing?"
Yeah, it's
It was Dave Filoni that was trying to push forward that project. Now, granted, Dave Filoni has been producing some other projects like Ahsoka wasn't as well received, but they are doing a season 2. But that does have to do with the fact that Ahsoka was kind of Dave Filoni's original creation back when you did the Star Wars Rebels, not Rebels, the Clone Wars, which was still a completely Lucasfilm project. That Dave Filoni is essentially George Lucas's I don't know if disciple is the right word.
Protege.
Protege. He's his protege. So
yeah. Well, with that being said, because we're gonna have to transition into the next talking point here really soon. But I think overall, again, I have since I'm not personally affected by this, however, I do think that there's a lot of fans are disappointed with the outcome, that they wanted to really see, what the the practice is, if there are any going on in Disney. But hey, I think in the end it was Gina's choice to settle this, and for her it came out in her favor, and I'd say congratulations to that.
I'll say one thing, and I'll put it this way. It's like this, being that I'm an MMA fan, this is like they literally made Disney tap out. So that's a win. You made Disney tap out. Let's not try to go. If you go to court, this is like a decision, and if you go further on, you don't know how, if the more a match goes, you don't know how a match is going to turn out. It might go the other way. Yeah. So it's like, if you've got the ability to just finish it right there, let's just finish it right there.
Yeah.
You made Disney tap.
Yeah. The only thing I would have to say in the end, though, I've noticed is that when Disney made their official statement on the settlement, they did not really get into having fired her. No apology, just that, oh, she's well respected by her coworkers and directors and all that. If that was really the case, you wouldn't be saying it as is. So anyway, with that being said, Matthew, we will transition into the One Piece season 2 live action trailer, and I do have to say that what I've been impressed about, and I haven't seen all the episodes. Maybe I can watch some of it, when I come visit. But with that being said,
right. We'll do. Are we gonna try to do an actual live episode? Because we've
I think yes, we'll try.
We've got it up now. If not, then we'll just record it together, and we'll have the ability to do an extended episode. But
yeah. So with that being said,
maybe try to do a live episode.
I'm really impressed with the fact that what Netflix has been able to really hone in on the details of the One Piece world, because I believe that the series and the first season ended with they defeated Arlong, and they're going to be now making their way into the Grand Line. For people familiar with the story, after the just kind of put in perspective of spoilers, the Straw Hat crew defeated Arlong, which was pretty much the last battle, arc that they had before.
Yeah, Logtown was a transitional arc.
Yeah, that's a transitional arc. So now they're going to be going into, and I know that's going to kick off the next season, because obviously we get Smoker coming up, and all that, and then they will, it's the whole thing about crossing the Red Line to get into the Grand Line as well. But it's really interesting because we did see, I think was it Dory? I think. Yeah. Dory is shown, so it does give us a kind of a real life idea of how truly big
they're
giants are.
The size of buildings.
Yeah, they are. So I'm impressed with that, especially considering the CGI, because obviously I don't think it's that easy to just film someone.
From the looks of it, it looks like it might have been some stop motion and maybe even some green screen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think this is completely solely CGI. It looks like they might be doing some green screen work here.
Yeah. And then obviously they got Nico Robin being shown as well. And then I don't think I didn't see Chopper in the trailer, but he had been shown in a teaser trailer.
Yeah, they've shown him in kind of a teaser. Oh, yeah. So fun fact. So Jamie Lee Curtis is a part of the Grand Fleet. She is a One Piece fan, and she said Chopper's her favorite character. And there was actually in an interview, there was fan demand about her playing Dr. Kureha.
Yeah, I think I had heard about that too. Have you any confirmation about that?
So my understanding was she was actually open to the idea, but when the time finally came to film it, there was unfortunately a scheduling conflict. So it's not that she wasn't open to the idea. She wanted to do it, but couldn't. So
maybe they might get her in some other role. That would be quite something.
I think if she got that, she'd be the highest profile star.
Yeah, that would.
Yeah, because what's his name from 300 playing Garp? I think.
Vincent Reagan. He's probably the most high.
Yeah, these are all. Admittedly, these are all kind of. These are more newer or international people, because Inoki Go, whatever his name is, he's
Mexican.
He's Mexican. There's one or two Americans in there. I think there's a Japanese guy.
Emily Rudd.
Yeah, but these are all Emily. These are all
the Makenyu is.
He's like Japanese American or something like that. Yeah, but the reality is these are all international. These are all international people who are regionally internationally, and because most of the production is done in South Africa, it's
yeah, he's Japanese American.
Yeah, so
he's the son of Sonny Chiba.
Yeah, so this is kind of a builder in that regard. So No, we're
Yes,
trying
it
to build
is.
something. I did like the brief clip that you saw of Laboon.
Yes, they do have Laboon in there.
You see the briefest of clips of Nefertari Vivi disguised as Miss Wednesday.
Right. Yep. We do have that. So, you know, there's
Brief
gonna
clip
be
of Nico Robin as All Sunday.
Let's see who all their casting and stuff like that. Yeah, so I think season 2, it's obviously going to start with Logtown. It does, and then we're obviously going to get into what is it?
My understanding is it's going to cover to Drum Island. And then
so covers Little Garden, and then
I think the reason why they said season 3 is because they're basically filming them back to back. Season 3 is going to cover all of Alabasta.
Yeah, Alabasta, because that honestly, Alabasta,
was the first giant. I mean, isn't Alabasta kind of its own saga?
Yes, I think it's considered its own saga because it basically covered volume 12 to I think like volume 25. You know, and I think the arc itself still covered like 8 or 9 volumes of that. So, you know, up until I think even the Paramount War, the Whitebeard War saga.
Yeah, that wasn't as long either.
That wasn't as long. And I think the thing that overtook the Alabasta saga was the
was it the Onigashima?
No, it's when they fought Doflamingo. Yeah,
so
the Dressrosa arc. I think it was the Dressrosa arc, but you know what? The Onigashima arc may have.
I think that's now the longest, right?
I think that may be the longest because I remember when
it's like we were battling for a year over.
Yeah.
It was just you had to go from chapter to chapter to chapter to see how everyone was fighting each other.
The Wano arc, that's what it was.
Yeah, Wano. It was like this long, grueling war of attrition. And when it's finally done, it's like, oh, breathe.
Actually, yeah. The Wano arc itself covered 149 chapters over 16 volumes. It includes
it's like finally when that was done, it's like,
and
oh my gosh, you can breathe finally.
And that was just Wano, because you also have to factor in that the whole, if you go upwards to the Wano saga, I don't even remember what it's called. I think it was called the Yonko saga. That's what it was. The Four Emperors saga. Now I remember. But the Four Emperors saga really started with Punk Hazard, because that's when they made the discovery and they met Kinemon and Momonosuke, and then that tied into the whole, you know, then they had to go to Dressrosa, which that arc itself then became the longest beating Alabasta. and then Wano itself.
I forgot, did they go to what's the Mink's place?
Oh yes, that's right. They had the Mink. Forgot what the name of that. I think the arc is named after the island. I forget what it's called.
So Zoe?
Yeah, yes, that's right. The Zoe arc. You had the Zoe arc.
And then you had Whole Cake.
Yeah, that's right. Then you had Whole Cake.
And that's what drew Big Mom into it. And then you had
Wano.
Well,
you had Wano. Then you had, and in Wano, you had the Onigashima, which I think it's not not considered an arc in itself. It's considered the Wano arc. I mean, yes, that thing was long, like long. And then you had this, and then you had the Egghead Island arc, which was just so condensed down.
Yeah. So one last thing, because we're running short.
Yeah,
on time.
We have 2 minutes left.
Yeah. So what's his name? So tell me if you agree with this. Grand Line Review, in a past video, I can't remember what exactly the topic was, but he mentioned how when Smoker first came on screen, he was like, it was like, oh my gosh, everyone's terrified of him. But he's like, in reality, he's this really chill guy to both his subordinates and to the townspeople. And, you know, he had this one point where there's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, my daughter just ran into it. And he's like, sorry, I got in your way. Here, buy another ice cream cone. And it just goes to show it's like he's this intimidating guy who's like all business, but you know, I think he formed the basis for the complicated Marine who didn't really fall into either justice camp. They had their own version of justice.
Yeah.
He's not an absolute justice guy.
No, he's definitely not.
Yeah.
He's the other justice.
Moral justice.
Moral justice.
Yeah.
Well, so with that being said, we can now close out this episode. Obviously, pretty loaded episode for what we had. And we should have the newest chapter of One Piece coming out next week. And then we also hope to get into some movie reviews.
I'm going to say one thing, spoiler free. I think you'll like it.
Yeah, the Naked Gun with Liam Neeson.
Yep.
Well, all right. Well, folks, it's time for us to close out this episode. And as always, I want to thank you for joining in. And until next time, we'll be seeing you later.